Live from Run Your Mouth World Headquarters.
First up, after the latest failed shooting attempt on Donald Trump, politicians are promising a complete overhaul of the CIA sniper school. Next, we speak to security experts for comment on Donald Trump's rather pathetic golf game on what news agencies are describing as an average-looking golf course at best. Next, with new details emerging of urban bird feedings, New York City residents ask if their pigeons are safe, with RFK Jr. re-entering the competition for who can kill the weirdest animals. I like rubbing blubber on my nipples. And lastly, we report on the college boys going gay for Tim Walz.
Coming out for you.
It's your daily dose of misinformation, pulled from a lightly hemorrhoided asshole. It's today's Run Your Mouth!
People try and tell you what you gotta do. Don't you listen to them unless you think it's true. Follow your heart and your dreams. Follow your heart and your dreams.
And with that sweet-ass banjo tune from Fast Heart Mart, you guys know what time it is. It's time to run your mouth. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Run Your Mouth podcast. We've got a packed episode. It's nice to be here in studio with all sorts of news to get into. I'm here in front of the FBI cleanup crew, just working the scene, trying to get rid of all the evidence. But once you're on camera, these guys like to freeze up. You guys see that video of Jeremy Kaufman when the FBI tried to play them a visit? You turn cameras on and these people just freeze. They're like, you can't see me. They're like a little kid when you play hide and seek. I'm frozen. You can't see me while I'm frozen. You can't see me. But they're here. They're working. We just, we got ourselves some access. We set up our camera crew. We like to do the breaking news from the sights and scenes where it's happening. But before we get into all the news, we do have news topics to discuss. Non-news topics to discuss. First up, Porch Tour. Are you guys going to be there? We extended 10 whole dates. Come make the journey to Denver. We're out of a garage. We're going to be filming an early show, a late show, editing it together, making it look like I was really funny the entire time. You know, if everyone can coordinate and laugh at the first 20 minutes on the first show, and then on the second show, you guys can just not laugh at the first 20 minutes, but then if you can laugh at the second 20 minutes, I can piece that together, and then the internet could think, wow, this guy was funny for a full 40 minutes. And that's the magic of editing. Anyways, porchstore.com. This weekend, we're going to be back in Byron, Michigan, out in that beautiful barn, eating that sweet sourdough bread. That's always a good time. And then I'm going to be out in Syracuse, Utah. And then I'm going to be driving down to Las Vegas for Skankfest. All right, first random thing I want to talk about. Firstly, I got to meet David Stockman the other night at the Soho Forum. That was a dream come true. Couldn't have been a nicer guy. It was fun to talk to him for a couple minutes. And then this is life. I'm riding high. I'm riding that, man, do I feel good wave. That's not a good motion to be making on the camera right there. Someone cut that for the stream, everybody. Anyways, I was having a good time chatting it up with David Stockman, feeling like I'm a part of the elites of the world. And then I drove down to Brooklyn, just trying to do a spot. I figured I was already in the city. Why not try and get some stage time? And let me tell you, real New York is still out there because I was rear-ended by a cab driver, and I was fine. You know, it would have been nice if he did a little bit more damage so I could get myself a new bumper. It was one of those things where, you get jousted in your seat. And then this is real New York, is that on every single street, there's some homeless lawyer. You don't even realize that these people exist, but I promise you, on every street of New York, you think it's just these hoity-toity, fancy 25-year-olds with rich parents, but on every single street, there still is some Monday morning quarterback homeless lawyer, And out of nowhere, you won't even seen the guy in the pile of trash. But the second some cab driver hits into you, he will get up from behind that trash can and start yelling at your car, "Don't get up, don't get up, call an ambulance. That's a cab driver, they've got money for this. Stay in your car, call an ambulance, your neck hurts. I can see it from here. I can see from the trash that I was sleeping in moments ago until I heard that guy rear end you that you're going to have neck pains. It might not hurt now, but it's going to hurt tomorrow. You better call yourself an ambulance and milk this." Not even lying. That New York City at its best. The second something happens, there's always someone who knows best. I mean, the guy doesn't have a job. The guy doesn't make a living. But he knows how to milk a nice little taxi hitting into you. Remember, your neck might hurt in a week from now. All right, I think we got to redo the protocol for accidents. Because I've had friends that have been rear-ended, drunk drivers or otherwise, and it takes forever to collect. You know what I think? I think everyone should be required to have a stack of cash inside their car, and on accidents like this, because what am I supposed to do now? You know, firstly, if you don't milk it on the spot and things hurt later, you need that documentation. You need to go to the hospital. You got to milk the whole thing. And who wants to be that piece of shit person? Who wants to spring into action the second that somebody else hits them and go, "All right, listen, I'm going to delete all of my dude instincts to walk this off and say that I'm fine. And instead what I'm going to do is pretend like I'm as injured as possible, and I'm going to milk this for all that it's worth, because 2 days from now, it might turn out I actually did have a concussion. I don't. I'm completely fine. But I'm just saying, this is what happens to people in car accidents. People get like hit on bikes by cars, and they've never experienced like an adrenaline dump in their entire life. And so they just walk around like they just took a hit of PCP, and they're like, I'm totally, completely fine. And then they wake up the next day and they're like, I can't walk. And then they try and go to the doctors. They try and there's no police report. You need to give the lawyers what they need. You need to start working that right out the bat. They should almost have car accident acting classes for what to do when you get into a car accident, because we're all playing this stupid American game, and you got to play the game as well. You've got to hop into action and play your part if you're going to want a payday. It's all about being a liberal bitch. That's the society that we live in. And I'd like to change this. And every once in a while you encounter things and you realize how stupid it is. So like rear-ended without bumper damage, $500 cash on the spot, and then you can then use that money to pursue a claim against the person. And I'm talking about when it's 100% their fault. You know what this guy did? He got out of his car and he's wearing his stupid sand shoes. I'll say it. And he goes, "It's slippery." He wasn't Mexican. I can't do accents. But he said that he just got the car washed and he couldn't stop in time because it was slippery. And I'm not going to, for all I know, the entire bottom of my car is barely hanging on because that guy hit me. But I'm not going to go to the mechanic to find out. And that's why at a minimum, you should get $500 cash on the spot so that, the burden that you got to go through to figure out the next steps on these things, it comes out of that guy's pocket. Solutions on the Run Your Mouth podcast. All right, let's take a couple comments. Let's pull a zin out of my mouth. That's getting a little bit much. Moderately amused. Robbie, when you do that gesture with your left hand, it just makes you a gay fascist, which cancels itself out, so you're still good. That's math right there. Can't argue with that. LPR. I missed the first part. Did Robbie get in a car accident recently? Yeah, but it was like a little nothing. I got a love tap, unless something happens to my car, in which case it was violent. I'm still shooken. I'm experiencing post-traumatic stress disorder. I've never had back pains in my entire life, but suddenly I got flare-ups. It feels like a hemorrhoid in my lower back, but it's shooting all the way up my spine, and I can't move my neck from this position. I've been stuck in this. I used to like walking around on my podcast. That's how I performed better, was by feeling the energy of the universe as I passed back and forth. But because of this love tap from a cab driver, who, should he have even been driven a cab? Who gave him that cab? Eric John Pizza Artist, what's up? Come out to my show. We got a Providence, Rhode Island non-porch coming up, actually a venue. And he has to say, Rhode Island drivers are the worst. Could be. I haven't done that much driving in Rhode Island to tell you that that's true. Although my family used to go to Newport every summer, and I never experienced that the Rhode Island drivers were particularly bad. DM, how can these celebs flock together with monsters Epstein, Diddy, Weinstein, and then pontificate current thing? Is it their fault for pontificating or the individual for believing them? It's too heady of a question this early in the show. K-Key, shaking my head, not live. What are you talking about? I'm live right now. I'm literally live. I just read your comment. This is live. This is happening. Tricked again. I don't know what the hell that means. All right. We got some other random comments, and then we'll get to the news. Don't worry. Don't worry. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna filibuster so that the FBI can't do their job, because they've got a crime scene to wipe of evidence, and as long as the television cameras are on, they freeze up and they get back in their cars, and then they go back to JCPenney so that they could continue to wear stupid just got my first internship clothes. That's the way those people dress. All right, let's talk about this first. I'd like to start hunting and eating my own animals. I meant to talk about this on the last show, but then we were doing the debate recap, and then I had Gary Richide on to tell us about how Winston Churchill is a pedophile. And so I had the distinct honor. Thank you to the random fans that will pick me up for afternoon activities. It changes the entire... There we go again. It changes the entire... I'm going to hold the microphone with two hands. It changes the entire operation, because you can spend a full day, 12 hours traveling out to Wyoming, and then you don't have a car, and then all you do is see some crappy hotel on the side of the road. You go to the show, which is a lot of fun, and then you're back to the crappy hotel on the side of the road. And so a fan picked me up, and we went out shooting in the fields of Wyoming. And it almost feels like in my head like a dream that I was out in a field in Wyoming for a couple hours shooting guns with the big oil drilling things behind me. It was a completely different scenery. And at one point we had this, he had a beautiful sniper rifle. I don't know much about guns, but we were shooting some targets, having a good old time. And then this elk came down over a hill, and I had this elk right in my foresights. And I've never wanted to shoot an animal. I've never gone hunting. We didn't have the proper tags, but man, did I want to take that thing's life and eat it. I felt I had that shot right over the leg where I think you're supposed to hit it, like right in that like chest area. I even asked the guy, I was like, is that the place to shoot it? It just came over like a majestic creature out in the wilderness. And I was like, I would like to eat that thing. I would like to no longer be a victim of whatever these giant corporations are putting into our food. I'd like to go out to Wyoming and I want to go full Rogies. Start hunting my own animals. Let someone else butcher it. I'd like to pretend like there was no blood inside of that thing. I don't need to see the whole gory process. I once had a friend who got really excited. He killed his first deer, and he was so excited. He's like, you got to see this thing. And he started sending me pictures of the butchering, and I was like, I don't think I'll ever eat again. When I was a kid, I once saw them do a kosher slaughter of a chicken, and the way that they slaughter kosher animals, I know you guys love the Jew talk, but they've got this, they got these knives, they're straight, and they check them with to make sure that there's not a single nick in the knife, and you're not allowed to use any pressure. It's like a paper cut where they do it right at the throat where they say all the nerve endings are so that the animal feels no pain. And the animal might feel no pain, but when you cut off a chicken's head, it continues to run around as if it's still alive and spray blood all over the place. It's a little bit like in a Quentin Tarantino film, like in Kill Bill with the swords, except it's just a small paper clip on the neck. And the first time I saw that as a kid, I didn't eat chicken again for 2 years. I was just a little bright-eyed kid. I thought chickens were suffocated pleasantly in their sleep with the pillow. That's what I thought. I thought a chicken went to sleep at night, and the tooth fairy came and put a pillow on its head, and then someone else deep fried it into a chicken nugget, and you were just having good, wholesome food on your plate. That's what I thought. Little did I know that there were these rabbinic ninjas slicing the heads off of chickens, and the first time I saw it, I didn't eat again. But when I had this thing in my scope, dude, Wyoming was cool. I felt like I was in real America in Wyoming. First is, I sat at some bar, I ate some lunch, lady messed up my order on cheese. I'm going to start bringing legal paperwork of declaration of understanding that I said I'm highly allergic to cheese. People are trying to ruin... I got shows to do. I can't be risking it. I thought Wyoming was going to have good beef, and if I was at some roadside bar, they might be able to serve me a good hamburger, and I couldn't have been more clear on this cheese thing. But I still went back the next day. She was a nice lady. We got into chatting, and she starts talking about how she's concerned about the situation in Denver, how she thinks that the government is importing a foreign army so that when it collapses, they're going to turn to these Venezuelan gangs to overrun America. And I was fascinated. I was like, lady, where are you listening to my podcast? Where are you getting your information? And she's like, nah, I came up with that on my own. I was like, there's some cool people out here. All right, here is my metric for when you feel like, man, I found real America. First, I went to some bar at night, and every dude knows how to, like, dance. You get these hot chicks and these dudes who are, like, line dancing. And I was like, that seems kind of fun. I mean, it's kind of gay, but kind of fun. Where do these farmers pick up line dancing? Is that something you guys just practice at night with your sheep or something? You go out there late at night and you're like, I'm going to be at a school dance when I'm age 12 and I got to know how to be able to twirl a lady around. You practice with your sheep. Does your grandma teach you that? But every dude in this bar, all the way up to the oldest guy, to the youngest lad, to the tatted up, scary looking dude, they all know how to twirl a lady around. It was fascinating to see. But, all right, here's my metric for when you feel like you found real America, is when you show up to somewhere and you're like, I could scam these people. And when I say I can scam these people, I don't mean that I can show up to a small town that's never seen Jew tricks before and I could take the whole town's money. That's not what I mean. Nor do I mean that I think these people are simple and stupid. That's not what I mean as well. What I mean is you can feel like a wholesome trust amongst them that feels like you're in a small town of people that if you told them, hey, I'm having a problem, can you just let me stay in this hotel tonight? I'll get that cash tomorrow. The person there might actually trust you, and then you steal everything out of the hotel and you're out the next day. Everywhere you go, it's like literally right out of Casino. You guys ever seen the movie Casino? And then at the end of the casino, when they're blowing up the big buildings, they kind of talk about how the real mafia is corporate America now and how corporate America came in and they're kind of like the real power players. So, good luck scamming a Hilton. Good luck you know what I mean? All these brands, they figured out how to scam all of us. No customer service. They won't take your calls. They got your credit card on file. They'll charge you $4 if you wake up and accidentally open up the water that they left right next to your bed. But then sometimes you go to the small towns, they still feel like they got a wholesome feel. All right, guys, last little random musing from traveling and on the roads. Dude, Hilton Doubletree is a weird brand. Because firstly, I want to say that I support them being cookie first as a brand. I appreciate that. And I was declining the cookies. We accidentally went to the wrong hotel. I declined their cookies. I went to the next hotel. I declined those cookies. We're still combating some injuries. I can't work out quite the way that I used to. Without all these push-ups, my tits are going full B-cup on me. I've got a first ever special that I'd like to film, porchstore.com. Come on out if you're in Colorado. Even if you're not out in Colorado, come on out. Take some laughing gas, laugh at my jokes. First 20 minutes, everyone's got to coordinate. We're laughing at the first 20 minutes on the first show and the second 20 minutes on the second show. Everybody should know that. And if you didn't know that going in, you can tell that to the other person. I don't want to hear any laughter in the second half of my first show. I want to make that very clear. Coordinated. First 20 minutes on the first show, second 20 minutes on the second show. Anyways, I admire a corporation that's willing to say, listen, you've made it here. Here's a cookie. Here's a reward for actually showing up. But, dude, some of these hotels, they got to just let you know. They you know what they need to start doing? Because I stayed at a Doubletree in Tulsa, and it was a beautiful hotel. It was like showing up to an old school Hilton. We were like, wow, this is a nice hotel. And then you show up to other ones, and you're like, is that bed bugs or mildew? What is going on in this place? And you know what they need to start doing? Just be honest with me so I know. Just call it like the Doubletree shit. You can have Doubletree Prime and Doubletree sack of shit and charge me the $90 a room for the Doubletree sack of shit so that when I'm online and I'm looking on Yelp for a hotel, I never use Yelp, but you get what I'm saying, Priceline, you're like, oh, you guys want to stay at the Doubletree? Shit, it's only $90 a night. I mean, it'll probably smell a little bit like mildew, but it's $90 a night. It's still a Hilton. Or you could be like, oh, wow, it's a Doubletree Prime, $160 a night. I can have a room at a Doubletree Prime. You people are ruining your own brands, It's like, just give it to me up front. Is this one of the good ones, or is this one of the bad ones? And you might think, hey, I'll be able to look at the pictures. But with digital cameras these days, they'll take a picture of a pool from the one angle where it looks like it's not just filled with homeless urine. They know how to do that. Do you think they don't have photographers nowadays with all the AI or otherwise where they can't have a purely little tiny box that's basically the size of a hot tub that's filled with homeless urine? That's it. They don't even try and put in pool water. They just collect the people from the immunity to pee into, and they go, don't worry, we're going to add some chlorine. And then it makes it so you can't look at the pictures. The reviews are always a lie because everyone's enamored by the cookies. They're like, I don't know, they gave me free cookies, and I went to bed, which is what they're trying to do. It's like in, and It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia when they start eating the cat food and they just pass out. I know what they're doing. They got bad hotel rooms in there, so they're trying to ply you full of cookies that you just pass out. I know what they're doing. You think I'm new to overeating cookies in the afternoon? You think I'm the only person that knows the way this works? You hand someone one delicious cookie, they start fiending for sugar, they go back down to your lobby, they order more of the sugar. Next thing you know, they're asleep, and they're like, wow, this DoubleTree really took the edge off. All right, let's get into some actual news topics. Before we do, this episode is brought to you by YoKratom.com, home of the $60 kilo, the only place in the entire world where you can get an entire kilo of kratom for just $60. They've been a loyal supporter of this show, and they do some cool stuff in the comedy space, including I will be at Skankfest. If you're there, come say hello. It's always nice to see the Run Your Mouth fans out at Skankfest, presented by YoKratom.com, home of the $60 kilo. All right, Gestanken. They taught us line dancing in elementary school. You see, when I was there learning Hebrew, you guys were learning real skills, like how to twirl a lady and get her dizzy so that you could put her on the back of a car. I'm just, that's Thelma and Louise, for those of you that don't know. Moderately amused at Mr. Rudeboy212. Robbie the Fire Spitter doesn't have the same pop. It does not. Thank you for that insight. DM, should I watch Casino with Grandma? She loves playing the slots. Casino's a great movie, and if you got a cool grandma, but like walk outside for the blowjobs. You don't want to sit down with your grandma for some of those scenes. Like to watch the scene when they put the guy's head into the thing and they start cranking and they go, "You're protecting this fuck, her." Oh, dude, one of the hardest I ever laughed because I never heard Jew as a derogatory term. Was when they're out in the desert and Joe Pesci goes, "You Jew motherfucker, you!" I never heard the word Jew used that way. I was just alone in my house. I was kind of shocked, and I just started cracking up. There's a great version of that, by the way, with Bert and Ernie somewhere on the internet. All right, last comment. Moderately amused at DM. How did a married guy find his way into our weekly incel meetings? You better at least be a cuck. Fair enough. All right, let's get into the show. Let's see the news topics that we have to get into, and let's start with Israel planted explosives and pager sold to Hezbollah, officials say. All right, listen, I got a hot take here, and if there were civilians that were injured in this one as well, then I apologize for these comments, but this is the kind of gangster shit I feel like we can all root for. This is Bugs Bunny, Walter White prison scene, taking out 8 people at the same time. You somehow figure out how to sell Hezbollah a bunch of pagers, and then you explode 400 of them at the same time and take out 400, I guess, soldiers or terrorists. I don't know that much about the situation over there and what might be the proper way to describe Hezbollah. I don't know enough about it. Is that just the military of Lebanon, or is that like a terrorist organization like Hamas? Is it just labeled a terrorist organization? This isn't the part of the problem program. We're not as educated. We're not as nuanced. We don't have all the fine points, the history and the particulars. We're pulling information out of our assholes and getting it right about 97.3% of the time. But, like, this is the kind of, you know what I mean? If you got crafty little Jew tricks for taking out entire terrorist or military organizations, they, like, just don't kill kids. As long as you're not bombing civilians and kids and you're pulling shit like this and it's ruthless and people are like, "Oh, you better not mess with those Jews. They're crafty. They'll figure out how to hack your program so that the nuclear warheads you think you're building are actually costing you electricity, and you never even get there." That was the thing that they pulled in Iran, where they were hacked the spinning machines so that it was never, I guess the uranium was never upgrading to lethal range or something along those lines. You pull shit like that, and everyone's like, "Damn, that was smart. That was clever." So listen, I don't know if a lot of civilians were killed in the exploding beepers attack, then I rescind this comment. But at first value, 400 soldiers getting taken out because they were afraid to use phones because the Israel government they thought would hack them, locate them, know their plans, be able to listen to them. And so they went with pagers instead. And somehow the Israeli government figured out what pagers they were getting and filled 400 of them with explosives and then detonated them all at the same time. I mean, that's some scary gangster shit right there. That's the kind of stuff that might, when you're doing a podcast, go, do I really want to be criticizing the Israeli government? All right, next up, we've got P. Diddy going down. I don't know. What news is distracting us from what news at this point? Is the P. Diddy the real story? And so they're sending shooters to go get Donald Trump to distract us from the P. Diddy story? Is the pagers the real story? And so they got the P. Diddy story to cover for the pager story? What is the real news story here that they're trying to bury with all of this chaos? So you've got Puff Daddy going down. I don't exactly, people like to say that this was a whole Epstein operation. I think he just figured out the way the game is played. I work in marketing, and everyone's like, you're always like, why is all of these accounts with these people? They don't even do good advertising. Why are they spending all the money over there? And apparently, everybody's got blackmail on everybody. You want to tomorrow morning, if you work in sales and marketing, you've got to just show up to your boss, have a meeting, and go, hey, listen, can I get a blackmail budget? I don't know. We got to go on we got to go hire some whores and bring these people on a flight and get them in some footage, and that's how I'll close some accounts. How am I supposed to close accounts? Everyone else is blackmailing out there. We got a blackmail budget? Can we bring people to foreign countries and blackmail them? So, listen. P. Diddy, this is going to be fun. I mean, instead of an election cycle, maybe we'll get to watch endless court footage of Puff Daddy. But Puff Daddy went down, and apparently it was because of his, the freak-off parties. And, okay, can you imagine? You're just some schmuck. You work in your job, and then all of a sudden your friend's like, dude, I got invited to the Puff Daddy freak-off party. And you're like, what is that? Some club scam? I got to spend $125 to be inside of a club, and Puff Daddy's going to be on the other side behind a rope. I'm going to overpay on drinks, be stuffed in the corner, realize I was too shy to talk to anybody, go home annoyed that I spent $125 for it. And they're like, no, this is at his house. We're going to his house, and these parties are out of control. And you're like, all right, fine. Is there a dress? No, it's wear whatever you want. Do I have to bring anything? No. You just show up. The drugs are going to be flowing. This is going to be a party. And you're like, man, that rules. And then you wake up the next morning, and they're like, hey, here's the little boy you slept with. Give us your, and then you're like, shit, my life is over. All right, here's the weirdest thing about the freak-off parties, is that apparently, I guess you would show up, and Puff Daddy was spending his riches to hire male prostitutes to have sex with hot women at the party. Does that not sound like the worst way to spend your money? Who wants to get rich and famous that you have the resources to pay better looking men than you to have sex with women that you're then not going to sleep with? Is there something I'm missing about the point of trying to become rich and famous that you finally get there and you realize you don't actually want to sleep with good looking women? That was a childish rock and roll fantasy to want to sleep with the good looking women. But what's actually more exciting is paying other people to go sleep with the good looking women. And then what is that like? You show up to a party and you're like, man, I got to watch people who are better looking than me have sex with the women I can't have sex with? I could have stayed home for that. I would like to, at least in the comfort of my own home, I could not feel ashamed about the fact that I'm doing this, but live, I mean, this is what I came out to a party for? And this is the problem with not dying at age 27. That's why as a rock and roller, and you gotta just die at age 27, because I guess you finish putting out the music, you're all rich and you're all famous, and then you want to level up to, I don't even understand this one. And okay, and just as a last thing, I'd still like to just take this moment to thank all the women who hung out with Led Zeppelin and the other bands of the 70s and kept their mouths shut. Like, listen, we got to believe women. They should be able to come forward. They should be able to say, but whatever lady out there had a fish inside of her vagina, the fact that we're still able to enjoy Led Zeppelin, that's a nice lady. She's like, you know what? Stairway to Heaven's a good enough song. I'm going to keep that one to myself. All right, let's move forward, because we've got more important news topics than whatever Puff Daddy was up to. And, who knows? Maybe this will track to Epstein. We'll find out. All right, I just thought that this, the second I heard about the Donald Trump thing at the golf course, I knew that there were going to be petty remarks about Donald Trump's golf game, about the condition of Mar-a-Lago. And then this was right out of the New York Times. You got a whole conversation here of, is the deep state trying to kill Donald Trump? And will Donald Trump actually pick up his tiny little shriveled old man orange nuts and go, hey, the deep state's trying to kill me. They're trying not to have free and fair elections. Is he so rattled by what happened on January 6th where he's like, if I use any of these verbiage whatsoever, people are going to walk inside of a building again, and then they're going to call me a dictator for another 4 years, and then they're going to come to my house and take the boxes that were my boxes. I like these boxes. I declassified these boxes. But instead of any conversation about the ineptitude of government, that either they can't even successfully assassinate a president, or they can't establish a safe perimeter for a president, or whether or not the deep state is trying to take a guy out, instead, we get to hear about Donald Trump's golf game. This is from the New York Times. Not long after the shooting, Trump sent an email to supporters saying, "Before rumors start spiraling out of control, I want you to hear this first. I am safe and well." People close to him said that he was shaken but upbeat, and that he had joked about not getting to finish what had been a good round of golf. All right. Next up, from Venezuela gains toehold in the U.S., it is interesting to me that we're starting to see more reporting about the fact that you've got Venezuelan gangs that apparently have come into the country. This would be a major election talking point, and you've had these crazy stories out in, I think it's Aurora, Colorado, of apparently a Venezuelan gang having taken over buildings, turning them into prostitution centers, starting to set up shop in the United States, starting to turn those profits, starting to build their empire. And then I saw this. This was a video of a police officer out in Arvada, Colorado, coming to say, hey, those are all internet rumors.
I stopped by here at 12th and Dallas. Got quite a few of our officers out here that are out here tonight again.
And firstly, there's just something funny about a middle-aged lady as your strong-arm cop being like, don't worry, we've got this under control. I'm the Sherlock Holmes on this scene. And, I just don't know who is lying to me. You've got the internet saying there were buildings taken over. You see videos of people with guns. And then you get a lady going, hey, I'm at supposedly the exact building they're telling you was taken over and everything's completely fine. And look, I'm not even afraid of gangs, and I'm just some middle-aged lady. So if I'm not afraid of gangs, I don't even know why they're reporting about it.
I've been out here for several weeks, making contacts with our residents, reassuring them about the criminal activity that's happening here and how we're going to address it. We're out here. We want to reassure the people that live in this community that we are actively investigating criminal activity that's happening and listening to them so that we can learn anything that we're missing. What are we missing, and actually find out what exactly is going on.
Maybe they don't feel comfortable telling you because you're a soft lady. You know what I mean? Like, if you showed up with the military, maybe people would be like, under my bed.
We're out here because we care. I mean, nobody should be wearing this uniform if they don't care. And we want the residents and the people that live here to know that we care. We've been talking to the residents here and learning from them to find out what exactly is going on. And there's definitely a different picture. I'm not saying that there's not gang members that don't live in this community. But what we're learning out here is that gang members have not taken over this complex. We've really made an effort to the last few days to just really ask the specific questions and the direct questions in terms of the gang activity and who's actually making sure that people aren't paying rent to gang leaders or gang members, that's not happening. And we've discovered here today and yesterday talking to so many residents that that's not the case.
So there you go. No rents are being paid to gang members. Have they taken over units for prostitution? I guess she's not addressing that particular claim. All right, next random news clip. Play it, producer man.
I want to ask you about her comments about the military. She said during the debate this about the U.S. military. Let's listen.
As of today, there is not one member of the United States military who is in active duty in a combat zone in any war zone around the world, the first time this century.
Our fact checkers found that to be false, and I have a lot of experience in that area as well. There are currently 900 U.S. military personnel in Syria, 2,500 U.S. troops in Iraq. All have been under regular threat from drones and missiles for months. We also have action in the Red Sea. We also, every single day, the Navy SEALs, Delta Forces, special operators can be part of any sort of deadly raid. So why would she make that claim?
Well, I think what's important here, Martha, is that Kamala Harris, in contrast to Donald Trump, demonstrated herself to be commander-in-chief. We are in a world where there are all sorts of conflicts, and it's all the more reason we need somebody who's serious and who supports the military. And just remember,
but Governor, excuse me, but she said there is not one member of the United States military who is in active duty in a combat zone. That is not true. You say she demonstrated her ability to be commander-in-chief, but did she not know about these people in Syria and Iraq? Why would she say that?
Look, that was a comment. That was a comment in a debate. I think the point that she was trying to make was a broader point. And of course, we have military in place all around this country.
I love it. I love the lying on the news of, hey, listen, I know you just asked me this, but what I can tell you, listen, I'm not going to address that specific pointed question that you asked me that highlights a fault in the person. So instead of addressing that, let me just tell you this other thing. Yeah, all right, fine. I don't know. Maybe she lied right to your faces and said something that was completely not true. But after all, this is a presidential debate, and we're trying to see who could be better liars. And I think what Kamala Harris did when she told that lie was demonstrated her ability to be a better liar than Donald Trump. And so what we should be talking about is how she actually came off more presidential. Yeah, that was certifiably false, but the confidence she said it with, and the fact that she said it to oppose what he had just said and earned points and sounded good while saying it. I mean, if anything, what I can tell you is that in fact actually highlights her presidentialness, which isn't a word, but let's go with it.
I want to ask you.
All right. And then this. Oh, all right. Now let's talk a little bit about the shooter outside of Donald Trump residence. Before we do, sheathunderwear.com. Use promo code RYM and get yourself 20% off the greatest underwear that's ever graced the balls of man. If you're ever going to spend time in the bushes, on behalf of the FBI, you want to make sure that you're comfortable. And so if you're going to do such things, make sure that using sheathunderwear.com, the only underwear that will allow you to comfortably, keep everything in place as you can't say things like this. But Sheath Underwear, it is the most comfortable underwear that's ever graced the balls, man. I wouldn't get through Port Store without it. I can swear by that. You think you're going to be out there on hot summer, sweaty port stores out in the Texas heat with just filling up your pants with ball sweat? That's not going to work. So you know what you need? Sheathunderwear.com. Use promo code RYM. And you can get yourself 20% off the greatest underwear that's ever graced the balls of man. And it might be the last day of their 10-year anniversary sale. If you want to go to the website right now, you might still catch that. But if not, Bobby the Bank, he's doing good work. He's supporting the Run Your Mouth podcast. And my promo code's pretty good. That's 20% off. Promo code RYM. Sheathunderwear.com. The greatest underwear that's ever graced the balls of man. All right, let's play this quick footage of the newest Donald Trump shooter. I don't know where they're recruiting these people. They seem to be really trying to find disenfranchised, creepy-looking white dudes, And the young ones couldn't get it right. So they're like, "Can you find me someone with more experience?" They're like, "We got this other guy. He's a little crazy." And they're like, "No, crazy's good. Crazy's good. Crazy is what gives us plausible deniability." That's what you need, by the way. If you're going to work for the CIA, you're going to work for the FBI, you're going to work as their counter cell person, the guy who's off the books. You got to go out there and you got to do the occasional completely batshit crazy thing so they could go, "Hey, we got nothing to do with that crazy person." It's a perfect cover story. Just plausible deniability. Is that guy working for special ops, or is he a crazy person? Or even better, is he not actually working, but somehow they know how to, push the guy a little bit? Kind of like when they entrap all these terrorist people and some handsome person shows up and goes, "Hey, you want to go blow up some synagogues? Hey, you forget hanging out here and just talking about random things as we do our LARP of pretending like we're going to do something about the government making us wear masks and not have our jobs. How about we kidnap the governor?" Everyone's like, whoa, that sounds like you actually want to do something. We were just hoping to LARP, have a boys club, jerk each other off, drink some whiskey, and pretend like we were doing something. This was supposed to be make-believe. You're actually talking about doing something. That's not what we're all about. And then the guy from the FBI goes, "Listen, I'm the handsome one here. If you guys want to be handsome and you want to get laid as well, we got to actually take action here, because that's what the world's like. That's what makes you handsome, is when you start actually taking action." And they're like, "Yeah, you know what? Instead of LARPing and being all ugly, I'd like to take action and be handsome." And then they listen to the FBI. So, who knows? Who knows? Maybe people are just being serviced the right ads from the FBI and otherwise into that stream, making them really feel like they got to get out there and they got to actually take some action. And then they keep playing the Taylor Swift into their ears and they keep hearing the stupid breakup music and how dudes have done wrong to women. And they do that. And then they go on their Facebook and they see the targeted ads about the Ukraine and they start getting all sorts of crazy thoughts. And is that a crazy person? Has that person been actually taken in by the FBI and trained on the actions? Or are they just broadcasting frequencies into our brain that every once in a while one of these crazy people goes, I gotta go get the president? There's no way of knowing. All you can do is scream these things out loud to the 277 live listeners and see what they think about these things. But anyways, let's actually watch the footage of the shooter in his own ears. And I think if there's one thing that we can learn from this, it's you can't drink the news Kool-Aid. You gotta understand it's WWF. They're being hyperbolic. If you take a pure dose of the CNN Kool-Aid, you're gonna end up with crazy thoughts like this. So just be careful listening to the Taylor Swifts. Be careful with the random information they put in front of you on Facebook. And if you're actually gonna sit down and watch the news literally and take in a pure dose of Kool-Aid of the news, you might find yourself inside your house for 3 whole years wearing a mask, being quadruple boosted, thinking that if you visit your loved ones or go work your job, you're going to be responsible for the deaths of other people. That's what happens. If you actually go right to the garden hose of CNN and you drink a pure dose right from the nozzle of the just pure nonsense that they feed you, and this isn't good. Before I was doing this and now I'm doing this, neither of these were winning hand gestures. We'll work on that for the next episode. But the point I'm making is if you take too pure of a dose from these news organizations, well, look at the way you can lose your mind.
Tell me who you are and why are you here?
I'm 56 from the U.S., from North Carolina originally. So I live in Hawaii now, so flew all the way from Hawaii here. So the question as far as why I'm here, to me, a lot of the other conflicts are gray, but this conflict is definitely black and white. This is about good versus evil. This is a storybook, any movie we've ever watched, this is definitely evil against good. I mean, we're battling a situation here where, the Ukrainians and the rest of the world are caring and kind and generous and unselfish and take care of one another, and it's just a matter of, we need to stand up for that. That is the most important thing in the world, is just to show human beings that we're kind and we're caring and that we take care of one another and that the world is united so that we feed each other and make sure that, we all move forward as one collective whole unit. So, we feel the pain of one country's failure and their conflicts, and we enjoy the successes of other countries that are doing good, and we all work together. And for some reason, Russia does not grasp this concept that we're all one unit, and we have to get along and work together.
We're all one unit. The entire rest of the world is kind and caring. It's black and white. There's only one source of evil on all of planet Earth, and it's Russia. And so in the battle of good against evil, we must symbolically all go over and go to war against Russia, because if we can go back to Russia, then we have this one mass of everybody that's kind, caring, and gets along. And I guess this other mass includes Saudi Arabia, Iran, China, whatever goes on in the Sudan, whatever goes on in Yemen, whatever's going on in South America with gangs or otherwise. But really, we have a perfect planet. And there's one mass of the people who are good, kind, caring, charitable, that feed the poor, that clothe the naked, that give health care to the needy, and that's all we are. We're like angels. Every other country, we are in one mass. There are no separate countries. There's just one grouping of all of us together, caring for one another. And then there's Russia, who doesn't respect borders, who will go into Ukraine and undermine. They actually initiate evil into the world, where if it wasn't for Russia and the evil actions that it would take, people wouldn't realize that there was evil on Earth, because we're all a perfect good. And we can't conceptually have that there's one country that's initiating evil, because then other people might realize that you can have evil on Earth. Be careful consuming the CNN Kool-Aid, everybody. You got grandparents, you got old white guys who aren't successful, have bad roofing businesses, but somehow are able to get themselves to the Ukraine to take part in recruiting other people to go fight in the Ukraine. It's all a pretty strange story. But if you can take away nothing else, it's the dangers of drinking the CNN Kool-Aid. Maybe I should rename the episode "Don't Drink the CNN Kool-Aid." That might be better than what I currently labeled it, which was P. Diddy's Exploding Beepers, which isn't bad. That's not a bad title. But I think for Spotify and for the podcast version, I will relabel this "Careful Drinking the CNN Kool-Aid." And with that, if you're listening to this right now, and then you think, oh, look, there's a different title over there. Is that a different episode? It's not. I just realized I had a better episode. All right, last topic. But before we do, once more, I will plug porchtour.com. We've got 10 cities coming up. Let me tell you some of these cities. Firstly, Byron, Michigan. Third time porching out in Byron, Michigan. We've got a incredible location out in the fields of Michigan. It's beautiful out there, and this is a particularly fun barn to play. They hook it up, and they got some good party supplies out there too. And then on Saturday, that's on Saturday. On Sunday, I will be going out to Utah, to, I believe it's Syracuse, Utah. It's right near Salt Lake City. And then I'm going to be driving down to Vegas. Really looking forward to that drive. Going to stop in on some national parks. I'm gonna walk on a trail and go, look, that's a pretty mountain over there. That's pretty over there. And then I'm bored. But for like 3 minutes, I'll look at something and go, wow, this was really worth seeing. And then Miami, Jacksonville, Providence, Rhode Island, some random spot out in Massachusetts, Colorado filming, and some other ones. You can go to porchtour.com and you can see all those dates. All right, this was JD Vance, who typically weird. He just is. It doesn't seem like he was a winning pick. But on this particular topic, they're grilling him on why are you saying that people are eating the cats? Why are you saying that people are eating the dogs? Why are you saying that there's a problem with the Haitians? And I actually think he did an excellent job in this exchange of going, yeah, there were failed border policies that have managed to bring 20,000 people. And by the way, she pulls this incredible move. I know maybe I should play it first where she goes, well, it wasn't illegal. I know that it wasn't illegal. But isn't that the issue? Are Kamala Harris and Joe Biden legally importing people into the country, giving them amnesty, or locating them to locations in which they haven't made the proper arrangements, and so that it's actually stealing resources from the local community or causing problems for the local community? As to whether or not if the president does something that no one else does, imagine if the president gave a pardon to a person that instantly got out of jail and created a new Ponzi scheme that then ruined our entire financial system. And then you got on the news and said, well, how can you criticize Biden for that? It's legal to give pardon. Yeah, it's fine that it's legal. I mean, anything that the president does, they could come up with policies that are legal. We're having a conversation about whether or not that was a good policy. I mean, if they decide to do a tax cut, you could have then a conversation where you go, that tax cut ruined the economy, or we cannot no longer fill our deficit. And then you can respond, well, the tax cut was legal. Yeah, that's not the question. Hey, Obamacare was legal. All right, well, is it giving us better health care or worse health care? What a weird pivot to go, how can you criticize Joe Biden for these people living in Ohio? It was legal. Yeah, it might have been legal because they've done this weird thing of letting people over the border and then just pardoning them or giving them amnesty. That's exactly what I'm criticizing them for. Is that I don't think Americans want this, and I think it's causing problems for local communities. Guys, robsnewsroom@gmail.com. I would like to do a deep dive into what is going on in Springfield, Ohio. I've seen reports going both ways saying that this is complete nonsense, but how many Haitians live there? How did the Haitians end up there? Who imported the Haitians? Who profited off the Haitians being there? Are the Haitians completely fine and this is just nothing but bigotry? They've actually filled needed jobs within the community. And, they go to their Haitian church and everyone likes having them there. It's actually worked out quite well. Is it a complete and total disaster, but there are no pets being eaten? That's not the issue. But they've drained social services and caused car accidents and other problems. If you got any insight, robsnewsroom@gmail.com. I'm curious to know, how prolific is the eating of our urban wildlife by foreign nationals or illegal or legal immigrants? Anyways, that's enough commentary. Let's watch a couple minutes of this. Give JD Vance points for... and by the way, you can see this lady, if she wants to ask tough questions, she wants to give some pushback, she's capable of doing so. Unlike when she had Kamala Harris on the show, or Tim Walz, when she had them on together. Hey, you lied about being in the military. I think it's wrong to disparage military people. All right, we can move on from that. Hey, are you actually an Indian or a black lady? I'm not going to answer that. Okay, fine. No reason for me to push back on that.
Now is Republican Vice Presidential
We're not going to
nominee
watch the full
JD
16
Vance,
minutes,
who represents
but we can watch a
Ohio
couple
in the
minutes.
U.S. Senate. Thank you for being here, sir. So the mayor of Springfield, Ohio, Rob Rue, said, quote, "All these federal politicians that have negatively spun our city, they need to know they're hurting our city, and it was their words that did it." Before Donald Trump talked about eating dogs and cats on a debate stage, it was you, Senator, who first elevated this baseless rumor. These are your constituents. So why are you putting them at risk by continuing to spread claims about Haitian immigrants, despite officials in your state saying that there's no evidence and pleading for you to stop?
Well, Dana, first of all, what's putting the residents of Springfield at risk, which was a town completely ignored by the American media until Donald Trump and I started surfacing some of these concerns, is that they can't afford housing, they can't afford health care. The schools have been overwhelmed, the hospitals have been overwhelmed, and they're overwhelmed because Kamala Harris allowed 20,000 Haitian migrants to get dropped into a small Ohio town of about 40,000 people, and it's completely overwhelmed the services. Now, you ask, why have I talked about some of the things that I've been talking about? Let me just say this. My constituents have brought approximately a dozen separate concerns to me. 10 of them are verifiable and confirmable, and a couple of them I talk about because my constituents are telling me firsthand that they're seeing these things. So I have two options, Dana. I can ignore them, which is what the American media has done for years to this community, or I can actually talk about what people are telling me. And of course, many of the things that the media says are completely baseless have since been confirmed. For example, I was told, Dana, that by the American media, that it was baseless that migrants were capturing the geese from the local park pond and eating them. And yet there are 911 calls from well before this ever became a viral sensation of people complaining about that exact thing happening. So my attitude is, listen to my constituents. Sometimes they're going to say things that people don't like, but they're saying things that people don't like because their town has been overwhelmed, and it's my job to try to fight for them and to protect them. Kamala Harris opened the border, and now these people are suffering. That's what I'm focused on, Dana.
Senator, I have to go through several things that you just said. First of all, the Clark County Sheriff and the Ohio.
So first, just to start off, fair. Hey, Kamala Harris created a problem here. I actually represent these people. They're complaining to me, and so I am highlighting the complaints that they're saying. Fair so far.
Department of Natural Resources reviewed 11 months of 911 calls. They only identified 2 instances of people alleging Haitians were taking geese at a park.
Sounds like you're confirming that this is fair enough to at least delve into, report on, for him to comment on. Only 2 calls, so I guess there were 2 calls where people alleged it. So I guess you're confirming that it's valid to say.
They found 0 evidence to substantiate those claims.
With that said, how much investigating did they do? Did they send Sherlock Holmes to the park? Did they count how many geese were before there or afterwards? Did they show up and go, you know what, I really don't want to work on this. Let's go to lunch. Case closed.
Also, other evidence that you have talked about, even you've retweeted alleged evidence, are unsourced social media videos from a different city, apparently no connection to Haitians. And this is from a conservative activist who offered a $5,000 reward for such things. And then going just back to the schools and the hospitals and so forth being overwhelmed, nobody is disputing that the town of Springfield, Ohio, needs help. But you're not just a bystander, you're the senator from Ohio. So instead of saying things that are wrong and actually causing the hospitals, the schools, the government buildings to be evacuated because of bomb threats, because of the cats and dogs, now is Republican Vice Presidential nominee JD community, annoying. Because there are a lot of employers there who say that the Haitian.
So just to pause there again, when you say nobody's denying that there's an issue of Haitians being moved to this area and creating a problem, well, if you're not reporting on it, if you're not criticizing the current regime for that, well, then you are kind of denying the problem. If someone actually highlights, hey, we've got an issue here, and instead you just try and discredit the proof that they brought of the issue, aren't you actually trying to get rid of, deny the problem? Like, imagine, I don't know, like, let's say I had a bad neighbor and I was complaining about my neighbor, and one of the things I said about my neighbor is that I had 40 complaints. Hey, it sounds like he hits his girlfriend. I see him peeing into the hallway. He plays loud music late at night. He bangs on the walls. Sometimes I hear him pulling down the roofing and putting frozen items into the roofing so that he can store his meat there. And then I can both smell the meat and my apartment ends up being more cold. And I also hear him flushing his toilets late at night. And then the next day you get on the news and you went, why would you say that he was flushing his toilets late at night? We talked to the other neighbors and he wasn't flushing his toilets late at night. Well, it sounds like you're trying to discredit me when I complain about my neighbor by highlighting one of the things I said that wasn't true. Fine, I guess maybe he wasn't flushing his toilet late at night. Maybe that was me flushing my own toilet, and I usually don't hear the sounds of my own toilet flushing, but then I smell his meat rotting, and I see his pee in the hallway, and then all of a sudden I'm awake, and I attributed the flushing to him, but I was wrong about that one. But if you discredit the one thing that I'm saying, it sounds like you're kind of discrediting the entire claim of, hey, I've got a bad neighbor. So in this case, if he's saying, hey, the broader claim is we've got a problem with Haitians that have been legally moved to this area that are creating problems for the community, and the news never talks about the story. They never highlight the story. When the story gets highlighted, they just try and discredit you by not reporting on the larger problem and just going, hey, that one thing that you said about the cats isn't true. Well, aren't you trying to kind of get rid of the story then? So it's what I'm trying to say is it's a rich claim when you go, well, no one's denying that this is a problem, but this one part was false. No. The reason why you're trying to discredit me on this one part that I said is because you want to claim that the whole thing's not true and get rid of it. If you actually cared, you would do reporting. You'd go, listen, this one part wasn't true, but there actually is a substantial problem here, and you would report on it.
Workers are helping fill jobs that they need desperately filled.
Dana, first of all, let me just respond to a couple of things that you said, but I want to start with something you said, which I think is frankly disgusting and is more appropriate for a Democratic propagandist than it is for an American journalist. There is nothing that I have said that has led to threats against these hospitals. These hospitals, the bomb threats and so forth, it's disgusting. The violence is disgusting. We condemn it. We condemn all.
That, by the way, that one just doesn't even make sense to me. Who listens to the news and hears that there's a problem with Haitians and that it's causing a problem for the community and then goes, you know what, I'll go threaten the hospital? Firstly, who are these idiots? Like, it doesn't even make sense. If there was like a Haitian community center, maybe that would make sense. I'm not saying don't do that. That still doesn't make sense. I'm sure the people that run the Haitian community center, if anything, maybe they're alleviating some of the problems that exist within the community because they're actually helping the Haitians that were relocated there. And so they're less of a drain on other resources and perhaps they're even helping them acclimate to the community and maybe even teaching classes called Don't Eat the Geese in the Park. We'll make you a sandwich. We've got better food in cans that the government will give us for free than that goose meat. So here, come to the Haitian Support Center. Like, at least, like, all of a sudden, you get this claim on the news of dog and cats are being eaten, and then the news goes, how dare you say that because now there are threats to the hospital. Is there any information about the threats to the hospital? How many threats were made? Did they do anything at the hospital? They just go, wow, that was a crazy. Like, how often do hospitals get death threats? Is that something that just happens every day? And then suddenly you start hearing about it on the news when it ties into some news story? And does the FBI go and investigate who the person is who's threatening hospitals? Like, why is it? I mean, especially, I already talked about this on part of the problem, but the Democrats seem to just be losing the, hey, your words are leading to violence play, as Donald Trump's the one person who keeps having crazy people showing up and trying to kill him. You would think that whole narrative of, which is not true, but their whole narrative of, oh, be careful with those words, they're going to lead to violence, they would lose their ability to play that card, or they wouldn't want to highlight that phony narrative, because if anything, it seems to be more of an issue for Republicans and would more call into question the news practices when they say things like Donald Trump will be the end of democracy. So you would think that the news wouldn't want to create this standard of, hey, charged language leads to violence. And that they wouldn't want to be leading the charge of, how dare you say these words because your words are leading to violence. But the violence that they're claiming, can I see some proof of this? Who heard that news story and decided to call and threaten the hospitals? How does that make sense? Is there anything to validate that as being true? Are the FBI running an investigation into who made that phone call? Does anyone think it was a credible threat? Or does someone at CNN just call? Do they have a calling team that just sits around and goes, hey, the Republicans made a crazy claim. Let's go threaten some local institutions so that we can tell them, hey, you better stop doing that. Someone's threatening the local institutions. Is that like the most Karen, bitchy CNN move of all time? That they literally have a team of people that were just calling threats and go, hey, you better stop doing that. I feel really unsafe now that you said those things that were true.
All violence.
Senator,
and
this
threats
happened
of violence.
after you and
But to
President
say-
Trump
no,
were
Dana,
on the debate
say-
stage, said
Dana,
that
no,
cats and dogs
you
were
asked,
being
you
eaten.
asked a question,
And
Dana, and
after
I'm going
that-
to go ahead and answer it.
Okay,
What
after
we
that,
said,
they were
what we have said is that this town has suffered terribly under the policies of Kamala Harris. Now, you just accused me of inciting violence against the community when all that I've done is surface the complaints of my constituents, people who are suffering because of Kamala Harris's policies. Are we not allowed to talk about these problems because some psychopaths are threatening violence? We can condemn the violence on the one hand, but also talk about the terrible consequences of Kamala Harris's open border on the other hand. Now, let me just fact check a couple of other things that you said, Dana, because it's important. You said that all of these migrants are in the country legally. They are in the country through what's called temporary protective status.
Right.
That is when Kamala Harris waved a magic amnesty wand, taking people and giving them legal status. That is not to say that they're here legally. That is a terrible indictment of her amnesty policies that have further opened the border and further
it's
caused
not illegal.
terrible migration into this country.
You might not agree with the policy, and obviously you don't, which is totally fair and legitimate.
Like I said, this is such a weird pivot to go not illegal. It doesn't matter. That's the point. We're criticizing the policy, but it's a legal policy. Yeah, the whole thing is that we're criticizing the policy.
Legitimate. There are policy disagreements all the time, but the fact is it is the law because President
Dana,
Biden
the point
and
is,
Vice
Dana,
President Harris are. But I don't want to frankly go down this conversation about policy
Dana,
because
you made a point. You don't. I agree. You don't want to talk about policy.
No,
Dana,
what I
want to
talk about
instead of about the fact,
Senator,
that Kamala
it was
Harris,
your
Dana,
distraction.
Granted amnesty.
You were the one who started talking about eating dogs and cats.
Level.
You were the one who
Dana,
brought this
my
up.
constituents
The president
were the
said
ones
it to
who talked
60
about eating
million
dog and
people.
cats, and
All right,
I talked about it because you were ignoring this community. My constituents talked about it.
Have you been?
Oh yeah, this is
My
fun. All right, we'll play this
to
out.
surface their concerns when the American media
Have you been to
ignores it.
Springfield?
Dana, I've been to Springfield probably 100 times in my life.
How about
I've taken my
recently,
children
since
to
you've
get
heard
ice
this?
cream at Young's Jersey Dairy.
Have you heard recently since you've gotten these calls?
Have I been in the last 4 days?
No,
no,
I'm
I
talking
haven't
about
been in the last 4 days, but I've
since
talked
you've
to
got.
What an idiot. What an idiot that lady is. All right, everybody. Thank you for hanging out. That is the Run Your Mouth podcast. We'll take a couple comments if you guys want to throw some comments at me before we close out the show. Thanks again, YoKratom.com, home of the $60 kilo, Sheet.com, promo code RYM for 20% off the greatest underwear that's ever graced the balls of man. And then, of course, PorchTour.com for all the upcoming Porch Tour dates. All right, let's take a couple comments. DM, look up Christopher Rufus reporting. I will look him up. Thank you for the tip. Evil Fandango. Yeah, JD did very well there. I agree. Just noticed Robbie has little pretzel knots in his headphones cord. Israeli spy confirmed. I don't understand that, but okay. Where will there be a porch tour date in Springfield? If someone's got a porch, I would love to go to Springfield and maybe barbecue with the Haitians. Maybe I could teach them about the deliciousness of chicken wings. And, maybe I can save a couple cats while I'm out there. Maybe I can partner with PETA on the operation and bring some Bill Gates beef burgers. And maybe I can convert these people to the deliciousness of plastic cancer as opposed to eating the wildlife. Or maybe I go out there and I try and convert them to modern ways, and then they feed me some geese sausage, and I take the most amazing dump of all time, like a nice solid log the next day, and then I start killing the geese in my local park because I find out, man, those Haitians were really onto something. The geese are free, they're easy to capture, they're delicious, they're soft on your stomach, they're high in protein. I mean, is anyone going to delve into whether or not we should all be eating geese? They're annoying. I've always fantasized when the geese, because they like to puff out their chest, and then they pretend. They got their long necks, and they pretend like they're a cobra, and you're like, you're a fucking geese. You think I can't take you? I've fantasized before grabbing a geese by its head and then just and beating the shit out of the other geese. I would never do it. I mean, I have crazy thoughts all the time about running my car into people. I wouldn't do it. But I'm just saying, when a geese starts giving me shit, you're sitting there, and you're like, oh, you know what? I'm going to think about the universe. I'm going to think about it. And then some geese comes by and tries to chase you out of your spot. And like, listen, you just because you dropped your little thin turds all over this park doesn't make this your park, you stupid Canadian geese. You're the literal shit that comes down from Canada and puts shit in our parks. I didn't like Canada anyways. If it was up to me, we'd burn all your forest fires and build a wall up there and keep your stupid Canadian horse shit out of here. You want to talk about people taking our jobs? It's all these funny Canadian comedians. You know, it's the Ryan Longs, the JJ Liebermans of the world. You know how many comedians from Canada who are funny come to New York and take our comedy club spots? Those are the real immigrants that are taking our jobs. So that's what I say. We got to build a wall with Canada. And if there's one thing that we should eradicate as a showcase of our anti-Canadian socialism attitude that had no support for their truckers, we're the first to undermine our non-banking financial systems for supporting grassroots organizations that were willing to oppose government tyranny. It's the Canadian geese. So maybe the Haitians have had it right this whole time. I don't know. Has anyone here eaten Canadian geese? If anything, I say I go to Springfield, Ohio. We go to the park. We take out our bow and arrows. We capture a geese. And we do the first-hand journalism of finding out whether or not they're delicious. And, you know, maybe we'll hire a Haitian chef to prepare the geese properly for us, because if you're just going to slaughter a geese in the park, I don't know how to cook it. Is it a slow cook? You got to fry it? Does it got a tough skin? You know, everything's got to be cooked properly. I can't just show up to some old rich lady's place, slaughter a horse, and make a good horse burger. I wouldn't know how to do that. I bet horses taste better as steak. I bet if you're going to eat a horse, you want it to be a nice cut of steak. I bet you want a nice hind leg, like right where maybe that's too tough. But that maybe is what gets you like the human growth hormones. Maybe that's what heals your injuries. So I'm just saying, who's doing the real journalism of actually showing up to Springfield, Ohio, and eating a geese to find out whether or not they're delicious? And if there's an animal that I would support the killing of, it actually, you know what? I'm doing a 180 on this and thinking maybe the Haitians know something that we don't, because geese are annoying creatures, the representative of the tyranny of Canada, and for all we know, they're delicious. Thank you for that comment. Where is this streaming other than X? Because there's no comments over here. I don't know what you mean by that, but it's certainly streaming to Odyssey. It used to stream to Rumble, but I'll be honest, Rumble sucks. Someone from Rumble wants to contact me and reconnect the way that this used to duplicate for my YouTube channel. When I was going to Rumble, I couldn't find my own content. So, you know, if Rumble makes it easy, I'm happy to be on Rumble. Like, I'm on Odyssey, I'm on Twitter. It goes to Twitch, but the episodes don't stay up because I just never changed that, which I probably could. All right, even Renfo, you should stomp on those goose. We call it goose stepping. It sounds like a little much. Junior, anti-Canada, and anti-geese. All right, we'll take two more. Catching 45. Is there a Haitian Bobby Flay you can challenge to a cook-off? That is a great sketch. That's such a funny sketch to do a fake cooking show from the park in Springfield, Ohio. And maybe you buy something beforehand to make it look like it's a freshly captured goose. And you put that up online. You see, you're hired as a writer. And if someone, Yo Kratom or Sheath, if you want to sponsor being able to do douchebaggery like that's world class right there. That's good shit. That's a good one. We're gonna close it on that one. That's catching 45. I appreciate your comments. All right, one more. Junior, when Rumble sued YouTube, they lost their ability to mirror content between them. All right, well, you're coming through with, I guess, why I don't currently stream. Maybe I will look into if they have No, I think there's a live feature, and I had the RTMP RSS feed set up, but whatever. All right, that's the show. Thanks for hanging out. Have a good one.